What's up, everyone? Oh no, I didn't kill the train sounds. Close the tabs. What's up, everyone? We are live with the Trainman report. Why do I still hear trains? Okay, we did it. We got through the trains being closed. Oh, I hear myself looping. Guys, I am so not prepared this week. I digress. We're live again. This is the Trainman report. This is episode 31. Everything's not looping back in my ears, so we're moving forward with the process. We're live on every platform. That's YouTube. That's X. That's right. There's a Trainman report X.com account. I've given up saying Twitter. It's just sunk into me now. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook. My name is Holden Stefan Roy. We have Alex Montagano. And joining us tonight is Marc Perez. And we will be learning more about him, which will be a fun thing. And we're going to talk about all kinds of civic-y, politics-y stuff. Nerdy. So if you are looking for the type of Trainman report where we discussed... Oh, he disappeared on us. Where we discussed the more fun stuff, like electrician stuff. Last week we had an electricians on the show. We'd be learning real things here. Real things from real community members up on the Trainman report. And so if you want to come on here and you want to share what your business does, what your coalitions do, what your passion projects are, if you're hustling things, if you're a musician and art person, if you're in NDG with something to say, then you should come through on the Trainman report. And we're like the dirty, grimy version of what they do cleanly on the radio, and it's more conversational and stuff. And that's what we bring to the table. Tell your friends we exist. Given it's an NDG show, we can only grow if y'all are out there telling people that we exist and doing the good work like that, and we appreciate you all in advance. On that note, Alex, I know you like to come through with your introductory introductions, so why don't you let the people know who Marc Perez is from your humble opinion?
Marc Perez. Oh, I know Marc Perez. He's a dynamic individual. He's on the show with us right now, so I can't ingratiate him too much. I'll make him blush. But, an intelligent man who is committed to his community, fully bilingual, I should point out, and is a new face in my mind of, the Anglophone minority communities that are demonstrating a resistance and opposition to the current political environment in which we live in Quebec. But before we get and delve into Mr. Perez, I think it's important that we do our community updates and our introductions. So let's get to that. First of all, last show on electricity was awesome. We had the guys here from Electrica. We had a great conversation. I think we need to have plumbers online because
I had the same thought.
Yeah, we have a lot of flooding in the neighborhood, and I think that we need to have a conversation about backflow valves.
Yes.
and roof drains, because roof drains, a lot of NEG homes are flat, and we have roof drains, and a lot of people don't realize what the consequence of that could be, especially if they're clogged up with leaves and stuff like that are falling from our neighboring trees.
I promise you, I've got no idea what the consequences are of any of that.
Well, you live in an apartment there, Holden, so if there's any damages, you don't have to pay for them. But mind you,
not in the least. Oh, no, I don't pay for it now. I will pay for it forever with increasing rent prices, sir.
I don't think so, because if there's an insurance claim, the landlord gets a claim, is reimbursed by the insurer. He's not upgrading your unit. He's basically fixing stuff that's been damaged. So
that's
I don't know
true.
Yeah.
But do you really want to fight your landlord over like a $60 increase? Chances are in these days, it's not worth the effort.
All right, that's another show.
Because Alex taught me how much of that is taxes.
A lot of it is taxes, that's right. Community updates this Friday at the Wheel Club. That's a little surprise here at the Wheel Club. They've got the Better Half Band, which is a pop rock dance party band, and the cover
Sounds
for that
fun.
is only it does sound fun. It's only $5, so if you're looking to party Friday night, hey, the Wheel could be it. Saturday we got the Mike Uzan Band, which is a '70s tribute band, and they have this guy who's a guest. Elvis is Fred Turgeon. So, it is what it is. Go have some fun at the Wheel Club. Obviously,
also, there's karaoke tomorrow. Let's give them all their plugs. Shout out Ramses for holding that down. Tonight if you're finished watching the show and you need something to go do, they've got an open jam night going on where a bunch of talented musicians are going to go play a bunch of old music that I personally am not going to rock to. But for a lot of you, it will be an amazing time. And I don't say that dismissively. They are extremely talented musicians. And every night at the Wheel Club, there's something happening. Monday's even got Hillbilly Night that I won't go to, but I hear it's the bee's knees to those that love it.
Longest
Nice.
running, longest running live, like, evening going on in Montreal, supposedly according to Schwartz, who was on the show, Charles.
Yeah.
Am I getting his name right? Charles Schwartz, is that it? Ugh, I'm embarrassed.
Clifford. It's
Okay.
definitely Clifford, not Charles.
Clifford. Oh my God. God forbid me. I am just terrible with names. And on saying that, there's also comedy in the Park Saturday nights. Maybe you know what time that starts out there, Holden, but
I
we've been
believe it's
trying to
8.
get it's 8.
8
We're trying to get someone from that to be on the show to talk to us about that. So if you're listening, hey, come and talk to us.
Telling you, go to the show, Alex.
Yeah. And then there's the heat wave, right? So that's coming. The next week will be an interesting, I guess, experience for all of us and how we manage and deal with that. And
We got the third air conditioner installed already. We got 3 of them in the apartment now. That's how we're gonna handle it. Then we're gonna pray that we don't overload the power grid and end up suffering in silence.
Yeah.
and the big news this week is that the parks finally, the grass finally got cut, right?
Oh my God.
That's
Which,
just,
okay, to add to that, people are mad now because for all the people that were really happy that it got cut, there were a lot of people that were really happy the grass was long. And it just goes to show that when it comes to local political issues, there is 0% chance to make these motherfuckers happy.
alrighty, on that note, I won't call them that. I won't call them that, but there's obviously, differences of opinion. All right, moving along. All right, agenda. We are on Marc Perez. We're back at Marc Perez. Kind of jumped the gun a little bit there and earlier in the show. So, Marc, I always ask the guests this question. I'm gonna let you talk a lot now. I know I've been yapping, but what is your origin story? I don't really even know. I know you, but I don't know your origin story and how is that connected to NEG? So there we go. Shoot, it's all yours.
How far back am I going? I mean,
When you were born.
The womb.
Yeah, I
The
want
womb.
the womb.
yeah, the womb.
And yeah, where you were born, what hospital, all that kind of stuff. It's important. To me, it is.
So,
Probably your mother too, but we want it's not here right now. You're here.
yeah. So, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here tonight. It's always a pleasure to be talking to you and talking to the people of NDG and everyone in Montreal and Quebec. So, a quick summary of who I am. My name is Marc Perez. I was born in 1981. My father is Moroccan. My mother is Iraqi. I'm the only one that was born here in the whole family. I have 2 older sisters. And all my life, I grew up in Montreal, Quebec. I've traveled the world, and I really do enjoy coming back to Quebec, and I love what Quebec has to offer. Pretty much had childhood in the French schools, and then I went to CEGEP, and then I graduated in animation, 2D, 3D, multimedia, and animation. And we could fast forward to just about a couple of years ago, where I got involved in the Task Force on Linguistic Policy because Monsieur Legault came out with a bill called Bill 96, which is, the don't speak English law. And I was very surprised to see that our politicians let us down with Bill 21, which is the secularism law, which basically you can't wear any religious wear, garment, or anything like that. We all know the big story of the Muslim woman who was fired from her teaching position because she was wearing a hijab. So I was very disappointed by the politicians at the time that let this pass, but it caught my ear, and I started to see that there was a pattern going. So when Bill 96 came out, I was wondering, what the politicians were going to do, and lo and behold, they went and they recommended 3 extra French courses for the Anglophones in the English schools like Dawson. So we all remember when Dawson lost $100 million expansion money. So
don't
since
remember that. What happened there?
so in 2021, Dawson College was supposed to receive a $100 million budget to expand the CJEP for medical purposes. They were gonna, they were gonna have like they were gonna train nurses and doctors and stuff
Oh,
like
that's
that. And they were
lit.
gonna build. So they were supposed to build like a clinic where they could learn at the same time. Much like the Jewish and McGill. So so our politicians led us down there, and we tried to raise awareness about Bill 96 and all the egregiousness that it brought. And we could get into that a little bit later. But bottom line, we made a commercial with the Task Force on Linguistic Policy, and then we decided to create a provincial political party called the Canadian Party of Quebec, which I am a founding member of. So the following year, 2022, was an election year. I ran for Darcy McGee, and as I was, asking people to vote for me and stuff like that, I fell on a lot of local people because I live in Côte-des-Neiges NDG. I'm near the Y, the Jewish Y, the YMYWHA on Côte Saint Catherine and
Right, right.
Westbury. So this is my hood. So
I know that area well, by the way. I lived in the corner of Lacombe and Namur.
Oh yeah, that's
Right,
that's down the street south.
yeah,
Yeah,
right beside McDonald Park and Mackenzie King Park, excuse me, and the Portuguese synagogue, the
that's
Spanish
right.
yeah,
Spanish and Portuguese. That's right.
that's right.
So that's very cool.
Yeah, but
We could have.
where you haven't told us where have you been born, Mark? Where was
I was
where did
I
the
was
whole
born in
story?
I
Yeah,
was born in Montreal. I was born in Montreal.
What hospital?
Which part?
What hospital?
I was born at the Jewish General Hospital.
So there you are.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, that's cool.
My
Yeah.
son was born at the Jewish General Hospital.
It's
I was born
like
in I was born in
what
St.
we're
Mary's
trying
in
to
Lacombe.
do is establish your NDG-ness.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
man.
important. It gives you credibility, right?
Thank you. So if I'm going to be honest, I was born, but I was born in Ville Saint Laurent. That's where I was born, and I lived for most of my life. The reason why I live now in Côte-des-Neiges NDG is because when my wife and I got married, we went to Laval to buy a condo in the hopes of selling it and buying a home in Montreal. Unfortunately, by that time, the prices of homes has skyrocketed, so we couldn't afford it. So we found this very nice apartment right in front of the Y, which is basically where our children were going for daycare. So it's a very nice area. We've been here since 2015. And like I said, when I ran for Darcy McGee, I was representing Côte-des-Neiges, Côte-Saint-Luc, and Hampstead. And I was trying to fight off Bill 96, Bill 21, and Bill 40 at the time. For those that don't know, Bill 40 was basically the destruction of the English Montreal School Board, and they wanted to merge it all under one school board. And Joe Ortona did an amazing job fighting that off, fighting Bill 21 off, and the English Montreal School Board still exists because of that. So as I was canvassing for votes and stuff like that, I fell onto the Queen Mary merchants who were fighting the bus lane on Queen Mary. And then I got engaged in local politics, and I started helping one thing and then another. I was helping an organization fight the soccer field in Mackenzie King Park, where they want to take a natural grass soccer field and they want to transform it into a synthetic soccer field, and they wanted to completely seal off the soccer field and make it just for tournaments. So basically, it's not even going to be used for local usage. So it goes completely against the Project Montreal's policies and their own charter and stuff like that. So they're so concerned about the environment and everything, and they're following through with this project. So that's pretty much where I am. And then I created the think tank, which is Let's Talk About Quebec, Parlons du Québec. And I have many more things that I could talk about, but I don't want to bore you guys too much.
Well, let's talk about Quebec.
Well, hold on. Wait.
Yeah, go.
So you just you do a lot of political stuff, but before we go forward, how do you fight for stuff? That's personally where I think a guy like you becomes really interesting. So you see, Alex and you are politically astute people, because I see Alex giving me that look, but he doesn't remember that the majority of people who will potentially view this show are not politically active. Thus, sometimes these questions are about showing people at a logistical level. So you get passionate about the lawns. You want the lawn mowed. How do you really canvass and fight for that? You know, like, considering the number of causes you've been involved with, you must have some experience of the real logistics of how to approach this stuff rather than just jumping in willy-nilly and rah-rahing on Facebook.
That's right.
What's
So,
that, by the way?
well, it's very important. Facebook.
No confusion about that. Thank you. Thank you for that slight there, Holden.
Well, I was not even thinking about you, Alex. That's one of those situations where you decided to wear a shoe that wasn't even for you.
It fits though. It feels comfortable. But Mark, sorry, go ahead.
So to answer Holden's question, so the way that I got involved was I went to the city hall, the borough meetings that we were having every Monday night. It's once a month. If people are interested, you know, they could just type in Côte-des-Neiges NDG borough meeting, and they'll get the whole schedule. It's usually I think the first Monday of the month.
That's correct.
And sometimes.
You have to be there at 6:30 to register for questions. So if you want to answer questions, you have to arrive before the meeting starts to register. And there's a lottery, and then your name is pulled. But you know, I have a problem with that lottery because it's done behind closed doors.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Not very transparent. In downtown, they do it right in front of you.
Another podcast.
And, yeah, and you can ask a question. I would encourage anybody who's listening to the show, if you have a concern about the community, come and ask a question. Because unfortunately what happens in the question period is, and I'm part of that, I guess, I have to own up to that. It's always the same, a lot of the same faces, right? And in a borough of 170,000 people, you know, and you're only having only the same 10 people show up and ask questions all the time. I don't think that's healthy for democracy. So I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Mark.
So, well, Alex brings a valid point, but there are I went to these meetings and I basically listened to a lot of what people were saying and complaining about, and seeing what the response was. And in the end, you know, you start noticing a pattern that there's a lot of people who are concerned about a lot of different things. So let's say the grass, the soccer field. So I was there, I heard the pros and the cons, and I looked at the study that the city had proposed, and I noticed that they, how should I put this, eloquently put more favor on the synthetic soccer field, with an additional column called water absorption of a soccer field. And, you know, it's plastic. It doesn't absorb water, and yet it had a 100% rating, and that skewed the report so that it was in favor of the synthetic soccer field. So, you know, you pick up a lot of these things, and a lot of people do come when it's a little too late. You know, like the bike paths and the removal of parking and stuff like that. A lot of people complain about the garbage and whatever. So the thing is that, you know, that's where I learned that there was a process that had to be put in place. You had to write a petition. So when we did the soccer field, we did a petition. We wrote what we wanted. We got the signatures. We got the names. We got everything. So I found out that much later, like only a couple of weeks ago, that I find out that that's not the right process. The right process is you have to go to the city and you have to write a petition. You have to get 25 people to agree to this petition, and it's called the right to consultation. The right to initiative. The rights to initiatives.
This is we had an earlier conversation, and this is what Balarama Holness did. I don't know if people remember who Balarama Holness is, but he ran for city mayor. He was a former Alouettes player. He had a pretty good campaign. He was pro bilingual Montreal, and he ran. He collected enough signatures to force a consultation with the Office de Consultation de Public de la Ville de Montréal, and they made some very strong recommendations vis-a-vis systemic racism. He is the one who raised that through that process. So this is a real process. It exists. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry, Marc.
So that's right. So Balarama did do it. I'm not too clear on all the details, but Alex is confirming that that's the process that was done. So because we found out about this process, this is how we're moving forward with it regarding the bike path. So another organization that I got involved with is Parc Extension. So I'll get to that a little bit later, but that's basically the process. And when you hear these people, you see that a lot of the times they're trying to have a conversation with the mayor at that meeting, and it's not the point. It's the way that the meetings are set up is that you get up, you have 2 minutes to ask your first question, and you get to direct it to whichever elected official you want to. It could be towards the mayor, it could be towards Sonny Morose, it could be anybody that's sitting on, or that's an elected that's sitting in front of you. So you could direct it to anyone. And then they give their answer, and then once they give their answer, you have 1 more minute for your either follow-up question or another question. So a lot of people go there with the expectations of having a discussion with the mayor, and I found out that it's not the right process. So I met with a lot of these people. I explained to them how they could best use their 2 minutes. So once you have that meeting of the 2 minutes and everything is recorded and stuff like that, and you go and you ask your questions, then what you do is you go on Facebook, you take the clip of your segment, and then you do broadcast it where it's needed. Like when I'm at the CDN NDG meeting, I blast it in everywhere that's Côte-des-Neiges NDG related. And I show people what the questions were, and then I see how many people are really interested in this topic. So the bike path is a really hot topic. And because of my involvement with Parc Extension, we created a nonprofit organization that's registered with Quebec or Canada, but we are officially recognized. And because of that, now we can go officially canvass door to door. We can go knocking on everybody's door and ask them for donations. We could ask them to sign our petitions and stuff like that. So now we have a lot more clout. So these petitions where people are just like, yeah, sign my piece of paper that says it's not the right way, and it won't go anywhere. The change.org is not right. It's not the right way. So I found this out because, we wanted to do a petition and send it to the National Assembly. National Assembly doesn't accept a change.org petition. You have to create a petition, have an M&A sign on to it, and then the M&A has to propose it. And once he deposits it, then the period of signatures comes. So you have 90 days to get all the signatures. Well, sorry, the city is 90 days. I don't know what at the National Assembly, how many days it is, but you have a certain time frame to collect enough signatures for them to discuss it at the National Assembly, or in this case at City Hall. So with that, we're going to be doing an injunction to stop the current bike paths and hopefully any future bike paths. So like that, we can collect the signatures that we need to, because nobody in the city gave us the right information on how to protest these decisions. And a lot of times we were invited to come to these consultations periods. So I attended these consultation periods. And in the end, it wasn't consultation whatsoever. It was, we're doing this project, whether you want to or not. It's been voted on. You're just basically here because it's an information session where we're telling you exactly what we're going to do. And if you have any questions, now's the time to ask your question, but we're not changing what we're doing. But now with this, if we have the 15,000 signatures, we could get a really big consultation and basically stop all these bike paths from happening. So
are you going to consolidate like getting 15, 20,000? I don't know. I remember it being 20,000, maybe it's 15. I could be wrong, but that's not important. It's a big number. And 15, 20 is still a big number. My question is, it seems to me that, that what's happening in Parc X, and what's happening here, the complaints are similar. People feel like they weren't really engaged in a proper consultation, how it was going to impact them. They never felt like they were really heard. Are you going to consolidate these two things and make one petition? Okay, that makes a lot of
No,
sense. Or
no,
you're not. You're going to keep it
no.
separate.
I have to, because every borough, every borough has to represent themselves.
I see.
Okay, so that's unfortunate. That's the way that it works for these things. So what I am doing is I am reaching out to all the different boroughs and to all the different organizations that have this issue of the bike path. I'm giving them the whole recipe from A to Z on
Mhm.
how on what they need to do, and I follow up with them. So basically, I'm just managing the project for them. So anything that's regarded to like Facebook ads, posts, and stuff like that, I give them the recipe. When we're going to be doing graphic designs, our lawyers and stuff like that, I'm telling them, if you guys want to come on board with our injunction to add your name to it, not a problem. We could do that, because that's at the higher level, which they can participate. But
But
in
but
order but
but
in
sorry.
order for them to
Mhm.
but in order for them to get a proper consultation on the bike path and any future things, they have to raise it at the borough level, which is the Côte-des-Neiges NDG. So they're going to have to get a certain number of signatures. On the website, it says 15,000, but it might change based on borough. But I'm there to help every single borough to start this petition. Yes.
Mm.
So saying
And
that.
Sheila had an interesting comment that people
Mhm.
can make an effort to announce the meetings on Thrive and
Oh, you mean the
things that are
council
happening.
meetings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Say.
high key, the politicians don't do a huge effort to reach me. I don't know about
Yeah.
homeowner
They don't
people,
want us at council asking
but
questions.
Yeah.
me, I don't feel
So
reached.
So it's very interesting, because we thought of that. So if people go to our website for the Coalition Démocratie Montréal, the nonprofit organization, so the website is cdmtl.org. So Coalition Démocratie Montréal. So basically all the first letters and then the shorthand version of Montreal, mtl.org. They could subscribe to our emailing list, and there's the list of all the different boroughs. So the role of the organization was primarily for Parc X, and then when I came on board, which is a very interesting story on itself, I said, because we're an organization, we're probably going to be one of the only organizations that's really organized and that has the that's registered and stuff like that. And that's all that I mean by organized. I don't mean that other boroughs are not organized in that sense. I just mean that on a legal standpoint, we could do a lot more than people who just go and get those petitions up and running, but don't have a proper structure in place for them. So if they do that, we will work on a mechanism to always advertise when the next borough meetings are for all these subjects. And I would love for people to get in contact with me, so that a lot of these meetings are going to happen at the same time. So if Parc X has a meeting on Monday and Côte-des-Neiges has one on Monday, I could only choose to be in one of those two
No,
locations.
they're staggered. Their meetings are staggered from the boroughs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are. I've
Oh.
noticed that. Ville Saint Laurent, Sud-Ouest, they have them different nights. So they have made an attempt to hold the borough meetings on different evenings, which is interesting. But the question I've been trying to spit out that I haven't been able to get out is that this recipe that you've created, because I don't want to just focus on the bike path and the people who have objections to it. It's fine. I'm not I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing. But what I wanted to say is this recipe that you put together could be for anything, right?
That's
It
right.
could be
Yeah.
it could be for people who want a bike path. Is that correct? They could do a petition saying, "I want a bike path in
That
this
could
area. It's
happen.
under service," right?
Yes.
Hashtag
Yeah.
democracy.
It could also be about the garbage. It could also be about the animal infestation. It could also be about building a soccer field, topic or any topic. And the reason why you have to go through this process is that they want 25 people already to start the petition, and the petition goes to the city, and if the city approves the petition, then you have to get the 15,000 or whatever number of it they need. That's how they that.
So the city could reject the petition even if you're all ready to go.
Yeah.
So we could go ahead and make a petition all about the bike path, and then Valerie just goes, psh, bye.
Yeah. So they could,
Just like
That's
that,
why.
Holden, with that sound
Well,
effect.
that's why they asked for 25 signatures. Most of the times, like if you go to the and this is also what it takes to be involved either in politics or with what's going on in your neighborhood. Like people say, "Well, I don't like to talk about politics and stuff like that." But when you say, "Well, what do you think about the trash on the street?" Oh, I don't like the trash on the streets, and I wanna talk to the city, and they should do something about it. Well, that's politics.
That's
That's
politics.
basically that's
That's what it
politics.
is.
Yeah, they don't realize that anytime that they have a complaint against the city, like if there's a traffic light that's causing problems and they want to
Politics.
change it, politics. So that's it's politics.
The,
So the question was,
the water that comes in your house, the clean water, it's
yeah,
politics.
yeah,
When you flush the toilet and you're like, your human waste, your
yeah,
excrement goes down the drain and goes to the city treatment plant, that's politics, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's all politics that made that palatable, right?
Exactly. So if you go on the website and you look at all the previous attempts that they had, you could see the ones that got accepted and the ones that got rejected. The ones that got mostly rejected were the ones that were where the tender was already put out. So a tender is when they have a project, let's say for a bike path, and they need companies to submit a quote on how much it's going to cost for this specific project. Once that goes out, that's mainly the reason why these bike paths
But hold on
move
to
forward.
that. Hold on to
Yeah,
that there, Mark. They've already
yeah.
started
Let
work on the
go.
Terrebonne path. They've already
Yes,
put signs and everything.
yes,
They removed the lines. So
yes.
what is the chances or likelihood that this petition, knowing what
So
you just
here's
told us? Okay, I'm listening. Go ahead.
so here's the caveat. That's where a lawsuit and an injunction comes in, because now with the lawsuit, we're proving that number one, there wasn't any proper consultation done. Number two, the safety of these bike paths is not secured and guaranteed because there was a girl that was hit by a bike, somebody riding their bike on the bike path and hitting the girl, which they were found guilty of and got a ticket for. So now we could go to the courts and we could say these bike paths are not thought of very well and are still a hazard. So we could start the process. It's not a question of really stopping the bike path, and a lot of people, and even Sue Montgomery got on my feed today and said, "Well, you're anti-bike path." I'm not anti-bike path. There's a way to do it. I have a way to do it that's good and secure for everyone, where everybody's happy. The only reason why Projet Montreal and all the environmentalists say, "Oh, we need to have less cars, and it's not about the cars, and we have to share the road and stuff," it's not true, because the Quebec government has said that they want to get rid of 75% of the cars in Quebec. So lo and behold, it's not about the environment. It's just about getting rid of cars. And the city of Montreal has signed on to an international treaty saying that they're going to be building these 15-minute cities, where basically anything that you need is going to be 15 minutes away from walking to biking. And there's also these places in Europe that implemented these 15-minute cities that if you exit your zone, your 15-minute city, you're going to be paying a tax. And we're seeing that being built here, where they're proposing the kilometer tax, where depending on how much you drive, you get taxed on that kilometer.
How can
But
they?
I was going on somewhere.
How can they monitor that? They're going to ask people to register their hours, their kilometers each year.
Well, there's already the technology with the booths where they scan your license plate and stuff like that. So when you go to red lights and whatever, so that's one way to do it. Don't forget that your phone is a GPS.
That
Don't
sounds
forget
like
that.
a big brother to me.
I would
I don't
high-key
like
say
that at
that,
all.
like,
I don't think that's
like
gonna
we gotta
happen.
look at this like a little bit realistically. That is years away in the best case scenario, because you're going into privacy concerns, and I promise you one thing, I'm very doubtful that we'll find 15,000 people to sign a bike path that quickly. I would watch people break the city over this kilometer thing. Like, that will create riots. Like, I'm not exaggerating. when you start
Yeah.
getting into that, like Montreal's willing to fight because that's
Yeah.
not a joke. And
But it
that's
depends. It depends. It depends at which
unless
level this is done
they
with.
give
Because if
me
it's
a pass for being an Uber driver and I'm not subjected to that because I'm required to drive this much for work, and then I might hate it less.
so obviously, obviously, time travels a lot faster than we expect. Because Valerie Plante said by 2050 she's going to have this $90 billion infrastructure plan in place. We're going to have all these metro stations, the Pink Line, an added REM line, and this and that. So this is how it starts. And the thing is, um, I'm going to go back. Okay, so I'm going to finish this on, and then I'm going to go back to your 15,000 signatures. So the thing is that it's already a plan, and it's a plan in action. And the thing is that no matter who wins the next election at the municipal level, they are going to implement some form of this.
Well,
So
I think that, I've been involved in municipal politics for 20 years, and, all of us who live in a city, right, or are close to city can see how the traffic is killing the city, right? The congestion. And at the end of the day, you know, when you have to make a choice. Is the city going to be for automobiles, or is it going to be for the people or that live in that city? And I think the choice is quite clear. The priority has to be for the humans that occupy that space and not the machines, right?
yeah,
And yeah, go
so
ahead.
on that thought, okay, when
Mm.
Valerie Plante wanted to do the no car city at the Hippodrome, okay, it didn't move forward for a specific reasons because humans don't want that. People want to be able to drive their cars. People want to be able to have the freedom to choose. People who live in places like my parents and stuff like that, they chose to live in Saint Laurent and a house, and they have a house and everything like that. They made that decision based on the fact that they have access to the cars, they have access to this and that.
Mm.
So people that live in Côte des Neiges and DG where parking is really hard, and Côte des Neiges is an impoverished neighborhood, not as much as it used to, but a lot of the people that I've spoken to at Côte des Neiges and DG are people who have 2 and 3 jobs, and they need to have those cars. Or they work very late shifts, and they need to have those cars because the bus system doesn't work. And I'm sorry, I have 3 kids. I can't be taking the bus to take my kids to school and losing 2 hours of traveling time to just accommodate what's going on with the environment. It just doesn't work that way.
Just to add to Mark's point, I was recently job hunting last year, and listen, I'm all about that cycle STM life. I'm notorious for pulling up to rap concerts, have my suit in the bag, like I done some ludicrous shit when I probably should have taken the bus. But like at the end of the day, I couldn't find a high enough paying job close enough to NDG that was like actually worth going to. In fact, I had 2 incredible job opportunities that would have been like really game changers, and both of them were located in places in Ville Saint Laurent that were impossible to get to via public transit. One of these places would have been over 2 hours if I'd had to go in on a weekend for something. So
Yeah.
it's like when you start looking at that, you're like, damn, man, if you want to make real money up in this city, it's not like you have to have a car, but you have a lot more options if you have a car, considering Laval and Longueuil are also in the job hunting districts and should be
Now they've
included.
announced the latest news in the public transportation file is that they're going to raise people who live in the island of Montreal pay what is that tax they called
Oh, you're talking about the driver's license tax where they're
yeah,
gonna triple it.
yeah,
Our registrations. They're gonna triple our registration cost.
yeah,
Yeah.
to subsidize basically public transportation, which I don't have
I'm
necessarily
not
a
even
problem
mad at that. I'm actually okay with that. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't have a big problem with that. My big problem is with that is like usually what happens in public transportation systems is that you're motivated to provide a good service, so you get more users, right? And by getting
Mhm.
more users, you generate more revenue. And obviously, that needs to be subsidized by a certain extent by the government. But what I'm concerned is that the public transportation system gets lazy because they're just taxing motorists, right? They're not really they really lose that connection with their
Well, I
clientele
mean,
that
mine.
drives like customer satisfaction. This is my biggest concern, right?
I do know that, like, my understanding, as Joel was saying a couple weeks back, that's the point, is to tax, for lack of a better term, to tax the shit out them drivers so that we stop driving. They want
Yeah,
it to
but
be
you know what's
so
happening? It was on Radio Can. They had a a talk show on Radio Canada about that today. And what's happening is people are saying, "Screw this! I'm going to live off island, so I don't have to incur all these taxes anymore."
honestly,
Right?
and you
Yeah,
can see the impact because on Decari. Like, you
yeah,
just have to look at the Decari Expressway. It's almost constantly in rush hour between the hours of 8 in the morning until about 9 p.m.
And
yeah.
imagine people like
So,
Marc Perez. You live next to that, so you got to deal with all the noise. I lived
mm,
in Lacombe, and when the pollution would come up, you get all the dust, and it would kind of rain down us. And our windows were always filthy. We could never open the windows in that area, in that sector. And in fact, it's
yeah,
so bad that the Quebec government subsidized, paid people, gave them money to modernize their windows to help secure the houses against pollution. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So the thing is that what I've noticed is that they have all these great ideas and stuff like that, and then they go looking for the money, and then they tax people like us and stuff like that. So the thing is that my issue is that, okay, you're going to tax us, but you're not, like, you don't have enough ridership to sustain the public transport. The after the post COVID, post COVID ridership at the STM is still down compared to what it was pre COVID. And now that you've built all these bike paths, you're still losing a lot of money. Why? Because maybe people are taking the bike path instead of taking the metro system. So, everything comes into play with a lot of the things that you said. So, people saying, "Oh, I'm going to go live off island." Well, that's how the Suburbans and north of Laval got popular. Everybody decided to live off island. And then what they did is that they needed to come on island to work, but you know, the downtown area still hasn't recuperated, and if it doesn't recuperate, there's practically no more need for people to come into Montreal. But you see, the thing with the
Oh,
Decari
we
Highway,
gotta disagree a little bit there, my G. I be doing the Uber driver, so I get a little sense of it. You come into Montreal to have a life, and you go
hmm,
back home to suburbia, which is the entirety of Laval. It's just the suburbs. The whole of Laval is the suburbs, and
hmm,
Longueuil is a little bit more of a mix, because let's be honest, Brossard's kind of modernizing and competing, but you you definitely come into Montreal for work because it's where stuff is, and the way a lot of companies are going is to a mixed situation where you're going to be doing 2 to 3 days in the office, so like you're still
hmm.
going to have a lot of people, but downtown's never going to recover because it's never going to be 5 days a week again the way it used to be, which is like
That's
basically saying a 40 to 60% reduction of regular money flow into that area from corporations, and that's just the reality of the situation.
exactly. Well, okay, so let's look at that situation, right? So the thing is that the city is willing to tax us, but we're not generating the same revenue as we were beforehand. So they're going to continue to raise the taxes. All the stores are going to close. What are we going to do? So that's that. I think that it needs to have a big discussion. I'm always willing to have a discussion, which is basically why my thing is called "Let's Talk About Quebec." It's really to talk about the future of Quebec, the direction of Quebec. It could be at the municipal level, it could be at the province level, and we need to know what direction we're going into. Before we go into another subject, I just want to go back because I had the 15,000
Yeah, no,
signatures
that's a good,
on my
it's a
mind.
good thing.
So yeah, we could get 15,000 signatures very easily because a lot of people are angry at Valerie Plante and they're willing to do almost anything to put a stick in her wheel at this moment in time. So I think that it's very probable that we're going to get a lot more than 15,000 signatures per borough. And quite frankly, if that works, it works.
She's
And
saying 15,000 per borough. So we have to
yeah,
get 15,000 people across CDN, NDG to
yeah,
pull up and
yeah.
sign.
Yeah, well, actually, because what we're going to do is, you could actually choose the paper version or the online version. And I'm going to
Right.
recommend that everybody goes online because I'm just going to be paying for advertisement, like on Facebook, Google, and stuff like that. And not only that, but the city actually has to advertise in the newspaper for us for free, telling us that this consultation was going on. So there's that too. So we're going to make sure that everybody knows about this, and we're going to build a team. And what we're going to do, the strategy basically is people from Côte-des-Neiges and DG. We're going to see how many people are ready to do it there, how many people are ready to do it in Parc X, and we're going to take the volunteers from Parc X and we're going to bring them to Côte-des-Neiges and DG, and vice versa. So we're all going to be helping each other collect those 15,000 signatures. So there is a
Right.
plan in place. You know, a lot of people say there's, you know, actually there's this one person that I shall not name that basically says that I don't have a plan. I explained the plan, he just doesn't seem to get it, and he's telling everybody that I don't have a plan, but that is the plan, and a lot of people have already started coming on board. So we need the funds for the lawsuit. We need the
But
signatures
the,
for the injunction when it comes up.
okay, but just to put the brakes, the lawsuit, the injunction has nothing to do with the 15,000 signatures, does it, or is it connected? How is it
Yeah,
connected?
it's connected in the sense that we want the city to stop all constructions of all bike paths, and if that happens, then Terrebonne could be stopped, like in its feet right now, because we need to prove that the bike paths are not safe, that there's loss of there's hardships that are created by it, and there's loss of revenues for the businesses that are affected by it. So there's four criteria, four different things that have to happen in order for the injunction to be put in place. And if the judge does put it in place, usually it's for like 6 months. So that gives us the 90 days that we need to go and get those signatures.
Do you think that you think that a judge, a Quebec judge, is going to want to get themselves involved in like community decisions that locally elected politicians have gone on board with? Because isn't that a bit like, you hear about this, right? You hear about the interference of the judiciary, right? And
Yeah,
the political ongoings of
yeah.
of whatever, the communities, the province, or the nation. You hear this
Hmm.
in the States as well with the Supreme Court, right?
Hmm.
So, how do you feel about that when you hear that kind of like issue being raised?
Well, it's basically it's not meddling because you have to follow the law, and we're going to look at the best example possible. Sue Montgomery. Sue Montgomery went through the ringer and was falsely accused of doing stuff, and she was kicked out of her party because they had a report that said and recommended that she needed to apply these changes without seeing the report. And when she forced them to want to see the report, she was unjustly kicked off the party. So it was a Quebec judge that came in and said, "No, you're not following the laws, and municipalities and cities are um, are creatures of the province." One day to the next, Monsieur Legault could come up and say Montreal is one island, one island, une île, une ville. He could say that.
You could.
There's nothing that we could do to stop that, and that's why everybody got upset when they did it. And then when Charest put out an election promise, he said, "Okay, well, we're going to do it democratically, and everybody's going to have the option to demerge from this from what was done." And that's why we have Hampstead, Côte Saint Luc, and other municipalities that are not part of the one island, whatever the saying is. So Sue Montgomery is perfectly the perfect example where the Quebec government has to come in, or a judge has to, because a judge has to be impartial. And if we show a judge that there are these four causes and they're strong enough and they choose not to, then justice is not rendered. Justice is supposed to be blind. And the
So
same way that a judge criticized Bill 96 and is eating a lot of flack because he said that there were issues with Bill 96. It goes to show that there are judges out there that are doing it for the right reasons, and we have to try. We have to do it.
But it
we
has
don't
to
lose
be
anything by doing it.
basically, if you're mad at something in the city and you want to deal with this with due process, just to recap for everybody that missed everything. And then, well, because, people come in, it's alive and whatnot, and they can't really rewind right now. And we're with Marc Perez as he's here describing how he takes on the city through actual factual logisticals, because he went through the process of, we'll call it mucking it up in the process
Is
of doing
going
it right.
is going into the process. I don't want to give anybody false hope, but I'm learning the process a lot quicker. Yeah.
But like the real process, not the one where you feel good and then you think you've done activism, but literally nothing changes because you're ignored. But it's the version where you take the time to go through bureaucracy, which is how you fight bureaucracy.
Yeah, but I'm gonna jump in
But
here.
I'm recapping his process.
Yes, we were talking about the Balarama Wholeness, drive to use this process to push the problem of systemic racism, to address it citywide. And anybody who's been involved in that process, and many members of the leaders of the minority populations who were directly impacted by this systemic racism, will tell you that at the end of the game, really not much was gained in that process, right? The Valerie plan really did not implement the recommendations as it was laid out by, the consultation and the recommendations of the consultation. So I just don't want people to think that this is a panacea,
Well,
that
nobody
it's
is
solve all our
saying
problems,
that
right? There's
this
issues
is
with the
a
process,
sure
right?
thing. We could also argue that Balarama Wholeness started a process, got distracted with 2 elections, and then proceeded to not take his thing all the way home.
That is not correct, because
Okay.
Valerie Plant finally recognized systemic racism, but the action plan that she put in place to address it, really nobody from a visible community felt that it was sufficient or really addressed the issue in any meaningful way.
Okay.
And then I got another piece. I'm sorry. So my next point is, if we're going in front of the courts, right, and we're forcing these injunctions, right? Well, isn't the right process in this democratic society is that we mobilize ourselves as a community and eject the elected representatives that are currently in power, and then bring a new team in that says, okay, this is the democratic process. So I kind of find we got this tension happening between the judiciary and then the elected officials. So I'm not saying that I have the answer, but I think it's an important thing to raise, right?
It's a great thing.
To be fair, all you really raised is, if you mobilize and do this, you might not win. Which, fine. That's all of that to be said. That's what you said, because No,
I said more than that. I kind of brought up the issue of the judiciary and elected officials.
Yeah.
But that's not as relevant, all things considered, because at the end of the day, there is a due process to start a process, and before it could even get to being solved and how you move forward with it, you still need to galvanize a community, get 25 people that are interested in starting this thing, which is already going to be hard because you got to get 25 humans to sign a paper. Then it has to get approved, which means that apparently it can't be so far in the process that businesses are involved, because once that happens, good luck. And then once that happens, you now have maybe 3 months to get 15,000 signatures by whatever means necessary, which means you should probably have a real good campaign planned out before you start, because you don't want to figure that out with your timeline.
Make sure
ticking.
there's some trains involved in that.
So I'll let you handle the train. So I think there's I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, I'm always telling the truth. I don't lie because it's too hard to remember and it takes too much time and energy to remember a lie. So the truth is that a lot of people have undervalued me. They say that things can't be done and stuff like that, and I pulled off miracles. When I ran for the Canadian Party of Quebec, they said nobody was going to vote for you. I got 5% of the votes, and I got 1,300. And everybody said nobody's going to vote for you because they don't know you. And I went knocking door to door, gave pamphlets. I did what I had to. And I started the think tank, Let's Talk About Quebec, Parlons du Québec. And everybody said, oh, nobody's going to come. I have a team of over 20 people now. talking about different issues of Quebec, and they're all managing those issues from fixing healthcare, immigration to housing, social housing, immigrate. I don't know if I said immigration, education. You know, we have to fix what's going on with McGill and Concordia and Sherbrooke. We have to fix what's going on with our CJEPs, with those 3 extra French courses, which are, you know, there's a lot of things that need to get fixed. And everybody's telling me it's impossible. It's impossible for them, not impossible for me, because I put the time and effort into this. So I don't know what happened with Balarama. If whatever he did. But just because he didn't succeed doesn't mean that I'm not going to succeed. And quite frankly, I've been posting in Thrive NDG for 2 days. There's a group called the Association of Terrebonne that are being blocked from knowing about our progress and what we're doing. And, you know, we have the people. We have the 15,000. We have the people that are very interested. We already have the 25 people who are interested. I mean, it's not that hard. And all it takes is a little bit of elbow grease. The other thing that I want to say is that if the injunction comes in, and this is why time is of the essence and why I'm rushing to do everything. Number one, I'm warming up the crowd to let them know that this thing is possible, that there is that we do need to collect 15,000 signatures, and if they're serious about it, I need a team that's going to come on board and that's going to help make it happen. Number two, with the injunction, if every borough comes on board with us and participates and becomes a name, a complaint, or the plaintiff, it's going to raise a lot of bells, and we could stop a lot of things. And that's the beauty of the injunction. The beauty of the injunction is that even if our 25 signature petition to the city doesn't work out, and the injunction goes through, it could halt all the projects of the bike paths in Montreal. On top of that, if there is an injunction that stops the whole work for 6 months, do you know how much time the city is going to have to work on replanning and rescheduling everything that they've already planned? It's not going to go until the next election cycle, and the next election cycle is when? 2025. So if we do this trifecta and we really attack them from all these angles, then you know we'll have an election in 2025. We'll have the injunction in place. The bike paths will have stopped for the time being, and we will have a new party, because right now that's what we're looking at. I am focused on a provincial party, and now because of all the social organization, I used to call myself a social activist, and now people are telling me you've graduated from there, and now you are a social organizer. You're officially a social organizer. We need to do something at the municipal level. And I said, I don't have the energy nor the capacity to take that on. And they said, we'll find you people. And they found me people who are interested at the municipal level. So now we can actually create a new municipal party that will work for the people, by the people, for the Montreal Island, and we could build something for at the provincial level at the same time. So you guys got a scoop.
Yeah. So on that note, I just want to congratulate you and reaffirm that you are doing positive things in the community, and you're articulate, and you're working on, obviously, I know you more for your work vis-a-vis Bill 96, and what I can I when I say that Balarama wasn't successful, that's not correct. He did push the needle, right? Valerie Plante recognized systemic racism. She never did that before. He basically forced her hand, right? And she did implement some measures to try to address the issue. So the issue's on the radar screen, right? So you got to give Balarama Homeless credit for that. And the people that were involved in that project, wasn't just him, of course. He was kind of the figurehead, very much like how you're going to become the figurehead of this drive with the injunctions and the signature drives. And I always kind of like how do you say temper my expectations. It's a slow process. You push that needle, and it's not a 5-year project. It's a 10, 20, 30, 40-year project, right? You only really see the results of your work, when you're on your deathbed, kind of deal, right?
Right.
So I just want to clarify that. But moving on, like, I want to talk to you about that a little bit because you talked about, parties and stuff like that. And, I've been through that process. I've created a political party. I've run it at the municipal level and the federal level. And, but what you and I, right, we have collaborated on projects together.
Yep.
And there's other people involved in that. And what I feel that happens too in the allophone minority population is that we're very divisive, right? There's a lot of like conflict, personality conflicts. There's like interest conflicts, whatever you want to call them, and
Hmm.
it concerns me because there is Colin Standish with the Canadian Party of Quebec, and now you're talking about creating another provincial party, and we are in the first past the post system, right? It's not proportional representation. There's no like runoff votes. It is what it is, right? And
Right.
this is a concern of mine. And we had Holden, help me out here. Remember that gentleman we had on the show from the West Indian community? Remember
Brian
he
Smith.
what's his name again?
Brian Smith.
Yeah, Brian Smith also talked to that. He talked how in the Caribbean community there's quite a bit of division. There's like the city had competing groups to like provide the how do you say the contract or the give the Carafet parade to. So this exists. This is a phenomena out there. And I guess my question to you is like Cynthia help me out her last name there, Marc.
Costigan.
She's awesome, right? She's one of these people that brings people together, right? I always talk beautiful things about her, a wonderful person. But my concern is that, like, we as a group need to work together and we need to, and I think that what's happened too is that the Gazette editorial board even talked about this, how Anglophones now we need to start connecting with the other minorities like the Filipinos, the West Indians, the Jewish community, and build that coalition, right?
Hmm. So, very valid points. And the difference is very simple. Cynthia and I met, and we've been working on a lot of different projects. You and I have met, and we've worked on a lot of different projects. Antoinette and I have met, and we worked on several projects. She's participated and stuff like that. I've organized, I lost track account, so if somebody wants to really fact check me on it, it's either 8 or 9 events where, it's been between car rallies, Bill 96 rallies, and stuff like that. So I'm not going just for the Anglophone community. That's the first thing that everybody thinks, but it's absolutely wrong. I'm going for a better Quebec, and I want to make sure that Quebec is good for everyone. I want to make sure that everybody eats at my table. So I reach out to the Francophones, I reach out to the Anglophones, I reach out to the Jews, I reach out to the Muslims, I reach out to everybody. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, the reason why it's so divisive is because there is no leader. All right? There's no leadership. Right now, the PLQ is leaderless for the past couple of years. And
wait, pause for our listeners. PLQ is the Liberal Party of Quebec. Please go
Liberal Party of Quebec, Parti libéral du Québec. Okay, the ones that voted for the 3 extra French courses at the CEGEP level. Okay, so remember that. So the difference between that is that the Liberals have lost their way and they've been in power for 150 years. I mean, they've been in politics for 150 years, and they have a long track record of not doing anything for the Anglophone community. The fact that they proposed the 3 extra French courses at the CEGEP level for Anglophone students that have the English eligibility paperwork, and you could go and see the video of Jolie Barrette saying, "Are you sure, Mr. Birnbaum, that you want the Anglophone community to also have these 3 extra French courses?" And 3 times he was asked, and 3 times he said yes. And the reason why he said yes is because it was point number 17 of the Liberal Party of Quebec's platform. So the Liberal Party of Quebec knows that in order to win, they need to cater to the ethno-nationalists and they need to cater to the francophone. So just like Trudeau is caving to the Bloc Québécois at the federal level, the Liberals at the provincial levels are catering to the French nationalists. So that being said, what's happening is that we held an event. Was it last weekend, Alex? The Grand Prix?
Yes, it was last Grand Prix
It was
weekend. That's right.
okay. So
That's
Grand
right.
Prix weekend, February on Saturday, Saturday the 8th or 9th. Okay,
I
when
think
it
it
was.
was the 9th.
Okay,
Yes.
something truly exceptional happened that hasn't happened in the last 3 to 4 years of my involvement with the task force or any organization.
Hmm. Well, I know what it was. Trainman
Oh,
was there.
Trainman was one of the 5 organizations that took part of this wonderful event.
Right.
We printed 10,000 flyers
Yes.
and we passed 5,000 flyers around, and people were shocked at how Quebec is where English is a crime. That you can't speak English at work with your coworker, and if you do, and somebody finds out and they call the OQLF, which is the language police, you could get a personal fine, and the company could get a personal fine. And the fines could go up to 30,000 for a personal and up to 270,000 for a corporation, and that's per instance. So if the guy is walking down and he hears 2 other people having a conversation in English, if he finds out that people are communicating in English by email, he could fine them. And that's why businesses are no longer coming to Quebec, because they're scared stiff. Valerie Plante had to go all the way to Hollywood to convince a movie industry that absolutely loves Montreal for movies to come back to Montreal. And Montreal and Hollywood said, no, Bill 96, we cannot handle it. We cannot deal with it. We are out. It's same thing for manufacturers.
It does seem like Hollywood has gotten over it and has in fact come back, because Hollywood's back.
Hollywood's back because there's back channel deals, and this is where I'm getting to. Bombardier, Hydro-Quebec, and another company are all exempted of Bill 101 and 96. And all these companies are companies that work internationally. There are many businesses in Montreal and in Quebec that do business internationally that don't have the same leeway. So basically what the government is saying is, we're going to chokehold the companies that we want to, and everybody has to follow our rules, and that's it, that's all. So believe you me, that the only reason that Hollywood is coming back is because there's a backroom deal where they are allowed to circumvent the situations, or they have extremely good tax benefits of filming here. So it came at a cost, that's for sure.
Well, I was at that protest with you, and I had a lot of fun because we had, we had the old school ghetto blaster pumping out disco music.
Yes.
And we're passing
and your
out
flags.
Yeah, and we had the flags. So I always enjoy showing the Montreal flags and having a conversation with people about the city of Montreal and its history, and highlighting the city of Montreal flag that features, the clover, the Scottish thistle, the English rose, the fleur-de-lis, and the white pine for the Aboriginals, right? And I really enjoy that because I had multiple conversations that day.
Also the Irish,
yes, the clover. That's right.
Clover.
And I had multiple conversations that day, and it was really a gratifying experience because, for the most part, people were very receptive and and really sympathetic with the cause, right? And it was a mixed bag too. It was like a lot of visible minorities. It was all over the place. We had our French. We had our kind of incidents there with the call them what you want, the nationalists, the Frenchies. But we had fun with it too, right? We started swearing, making fun in French. And
no,
dropping.
I didn't do that. Come on.
Dropping the tabernacles. And
you did that.
The bins and stuff like that, right? Well, remember the guy with the license plate with tabernacle? Remember that one? And so it was fun. It was fun,
Okay.
and I think that you know, at the end of the day, Montrealers want to get along with each other, and I think that if we could,
Actually,
yeah,
sorry, if we could give a shout out to Guy Rex Rogers,
yeah,
who basically, go ahead, shout out
put
to him.
yeah, put the Montreal flag back on the map with what we choose to remember, right? He made a film about it, and it is brilliant, brilliant film, very well done, professional. It's not antagonistic whatsoever. It's actually a film that embraces, the l'esprit de Montréal, if I can say that. And I think that at the end of the day, Montrealers want to just live together in peace. And I personally,
But
go ahead, on a
like, I don't
holistic point
know.
of view, I think that if we can embrace that, to me, that's where the change is. Go ahead, Holden. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just
And
as much as all that's true, I think it's key to remember that, as Marc said earlier, Montreal is a byproduct of Quebec. When we get to Quebec politics, Montreal's an irrelevant population for us. So it gets tricky for.
We have 3 million people in Montreal. The
Yeah,
Greater
the
Montreal
voting
area
map,
is
the
3
map,
million. Yeah,
the
and
map
then
has the same problem New York's map has. New York City goes through the same
and the
crap.
Quebec
The power of
Yeah.
the
that's not true
the
because
power
the
of
Quebec
the rural
the Quebec
areas.
population is 5 million people.
Yeah, but
and
that's
in
not
the,
how it's. That's we both know that's
yeah,
not how the political map it
yes,
represents power.
you're right.
Okay.
The rural
So your
the rural
point
the rural
is
regions
just
exercise
arguing
more
that
power. Yes,
yeah.
that's
thus
a big.
So
when we
that's
really
actually one of the
and
things that we
you
were
can
talking
see it
about
in the
to
weed
change.
laws. That's how I
Yeah,
learned all about this. Because, you
yeah.
know what? Rural Quebec owns property. All the weed laws make sense if you own property. They don't make
Yeah.
sense if you don't own property.
So you're saying we're
Yeah.
smoking pot because of the
No, I'm saying that if you if you look at how it's listed
lobby?
on. No, I'm saying if you look at how Legault used that as a quick win once he got elected, he banned it in public because giving you the right to smoke in private, but then also gave landlords the power to rewrite leases in Montreal. This all happened in 2017. So technically it's illegal to smoke weed in public in the province, across the whole province. But
It is?
Montreal has...
I would never have guessed that.
it's a fact. It
No,
is.
it's not.
It's technically on the books. It's just not enforced everywhere. But if you go to most places,
You could smoke pot in parks. I remember there was a big argument about that.
yeah, because
I drive in road
Valerie
trend.
told the cops to like chill out. But if you look at Quebec's law, it's actually on the books. Because I get in
can't
trouble
comment on
every
that. I don't know.
every single time I leave
plead
Montreal.
ignorance.
I forget
I'm
about
dumb.
that, and I get reminded about what the actual Quebec laws are. However, Valerie told the SPVM to chill on it, but like technically it's on the books because of Legault. And all the way the law is worded has to do with if you're a homeowner, it makes no difference, just smoke at home. But if you don't got a home and you don't own no home, it's a complicated situation.
Yes, it is.
But like
Especially if
that's
your
that's
lease
how.
says you can't smoke
But if
pot
you
in your
look at
apartment.
how that happened, Montreal created bylaws to work around that shit. But if you look at the overallness, Quebec really doesn't care about a lot of these little issues. And like my fear, honestly, with some of this is that people feel it's futile. Because it is nice to have conversations. This is where I get my like skeptic hat on. Because I do believe in the process and I believe in fighting for it. But I think it's got to be a lot more than just feel good conversations and stuff. Like there has to be clear action that can showcase a clear path to results, because in general sympathy doesn't go very far when it gets to bureaucratic process. And I
Yep.
think 15,000 people is a crazy number. I wish you all the luck of getting that, Mark. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but like it is such a daunting idea to get 15,000 people to agree about something. That's a big
Yeah.
ask.
Thank you. Well, I hope to be invited when it happens, and
yeah,
we get to have this discussion.
We'll have you back in
Absolutely.
the show, right? And
Yeah.
I'll give you some train gifts.
Awesome.
Okay,
But like
say-
you pull it off, that's a crazy success story that the rest of
is.
everyone
Very
will be able to
crazy
use
success
forever. Be like,
That's a
remember
serious
that
feather
time
in your
Marc
cap.
Perez pulled it off? I mean, that's like that's why I really want you to keep fighting it and pushing it, because that's the kind of role model-y stuff citizens need to do. Like since I met Alex, I've been pushing for how do you actually fight the city, because like rah-rahing on Facebook is meh, doesn't go anywhere. So what do we
Yeah.
actually need
feels
to
really
do?
comfortable.
But
On that note,
because people are seeing, because people are seeing that not only am I pushing, but we're getting results. That's why the team is growing. That's why Palonji Quebec is growing. That's why people are showing up to these rallies. Bill 96. A lot of people are very worried because the American government got involved because they're worried about how it's affecting the USMC treaty, which is the new name of the NAFTA, and that Canada may be penalized because of these laws. So there is a lot of international pressure where these language laws are affecting Canada and Quebec and businesses and stuff like that. Soon you won't be able to import anything into Quebec. I mean, if you go to the website of OtterBox and you go and ask them to ship
No.
box, they'll say, sorry, we cannot ship to Quebec because, and I've heard and I've read a lot of companies, when they see the IP address coming from the Quebec, they just block it because they can't sell to Quebecers, and it's just such a hassle because the government puts such a restriction on them. So it is affecting, and you're going to see
OtterBox's products for a decade. This is the most heartbreaking thing I've learned on the Trainman Report.
Yeah. But if you go if you go to the OtterBox website, if you buy it off of Amazon, it's a different story.
Yeah,
but
Amazon.
But look at another example. Either Amazon or Walmart was supposed to build a facility, a warehouse, distribution center in Quebec, and they pulled out. And rumors are that it's because of Bill 96. Because in Bill 96, it says that all your software has to be in French. Your Windows has to be in French. The software that controls your inventory has to be in French. Your supervisors have to be French. Everybody has to be French. And you're not even allowed to mention on a CV or job application that English is an asset or English is necessary. You're not allowed. So how is a recruiter supposed to find somebody that's bilingual?
People violate that all the time on Indeed.
Oh, but they're going to get their fingers slapped. And the only condition that they could do that is they have to demonstrate to the OQLF that they do need an English. They need to look for somebody with those qualifications. If the OQLF finds out, and I'm pretty sure that somebody is scanning the Indeed thing, I'm sure the OQLF is. My God, there's this Melissa who owns the interior car cleaning.
Yo, she just cleaned my car, and she just did such a good job. Shout out her.
Shout out
to her. And she got a letter from the OQLF telling her a one-person company that is raising, I believe it's 3 children. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't
2 or
know
3.
like that.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
They were going to give her a $2,700 fine on Monday if her website was not bilingual or did not have French, because they don't care about English.
Apparently it's 2 boys. Shout out Jennifer Jones.
Two. Thank you. So just to let me finish on that thought, when she wrote that on Facebook, I went on Facebook and I told her, I'll take care of your website and everything that you need, no charge. So I built her new website.
That's very
so
kind
go
of
check
you.
her. So go check her new website, and there's more to come. But that goes to show how the OQLF is out there watching you. So if you think that they're not, they are, and there's a lot of anonymous callers that would rat you out in a minute. And don't forget that during the COVID period.
How does that
don't
affect
forget that during the
media
COVID
companies?
period. Well, Bell is down. Bell.
No, I mean it more like
media
because in the world of entertainment, I'm an English rapper, right?
Yeah.
Like, my art is in English, as in it's not French. So does that make me a company that is violating, technically?
Well, if you had a website.
No, if you're rapping in English, that's different. But if you're rapping in English, that's fine. But here's a kicker for you. The Quebec government has forced Spotify, iTunes, and all other streaming services to showcase more French content and Quebec content than your content. So now you've just been downgraded. So
We all know
you may
about
not
that.
have
Yeah,
go.
this is a big issue in Quebec. I find
Yeah,
this is the biggest
go.
issue in my mind
I don't.
because what it's not just about linguistic imposition of this linguistic kind of like policy. It's also a cultural and ethnic standard
But
that the government's trying to
I was,
establish.
but yes, but does that
This you
mean my
can't do that,
website
right?
supporting English rap has to be in French according to
That's
Quebec?
correct. That's
Oh
correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if somebody watches this replay, and you know that I'm going to be broadcasting and sharing this thing everywhere, somebody's gonna call the OQLF. They're gonna come and check your website. You're gonna be getting that letter faster than you could expect.
I would love the fame I would get off that letter. That might
Well,
actually make me money.
It
That would
happened
make.
to me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I
wow.
could use some clout points like the government coming after me like that. Oh my god, that would be a blessing.
So
This
so in
happened-
other
my
words, you
site.
want me to call
And-
them? So
Not no. Let's
you
not.
know
Like,
what?
let's not
What-
like fully
what-
poke the
what-
bear.
So why don't I call them? So why don't I call
Let's
them
not
on
fully
your
poke the bear.
podcast?
Let's not fully do it. I don't know
Yeah, but
that I
this-
really
this
want to have
happened
to
to me.
translate a thing like that. But
Hold it.
if it
Hold it,
did
this happened to
happen,
me.
I'd still have fun with it.
Yeah, but hold it. It happened to me. Remember, I did that screening of what we choose to remember at the Legion, right?
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden there was these nationalists that were trolling my posts and my page, and one of them found some page in my website that's not perfectly translated in French, and he made a complaint, and I got a call from the OLF. It happened. I'm telling you, it was there.
The OQLF is spending more money. They just spent what $25 million to hire new employees so
Yeah.
that they could go and check everything. Trust me, you think it's a joke, but it's a comment.
I don't
But,
think it's
you
a
know-
joke. I think it's something I can make money off of. That's not the
Oh,
same
sure.
thing.
Sure.
But
I could-
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Because like it's absolutely preposterous in general, and the thing is like I don't really target Quebec as much now as I target American audiences and stuff like that. Now I know that doesn't change anything, but they're gonna
Zero.
go and be hella supportive of the awful weird conditions. Because when I say stuff like "Yo, Quebec made me a white dude a minority," they find that so baffling. But it's also very legally actually a thing. I'm a minority in Quebec, which is so weird when you like look at the overall conversation of it. But Quebec decided that like what, a year ago? Like it just happened one day. Now I'm a historic Anglo.
Yeah. And the thing is that there was a card collector selling only to U.S. and his website is in Quebec. Sorry, his business is registered in Quebec. They called him and they told him you have to have French on your website. And he's like, I'm not even selling to Quebec. I'm not even selling to Canada. I'm just selling to the U.S.
What if I don't have a registered business? Does that matter?
No, if you don't have a registered business, it doesn't matter. They can't come after you. But what everybody's
the
doing.
Trainman report safe.
So the thing is, what most people are doing is that they're just opening a business in Ontario. They're just
Absolutely.
registering their business in Ontario and paying the taxes to
Or you
Ontario.
register in Canada. That's what I did. I registered in Canada. I'm a Canadian
Yeah,
registered.
As long as it's not Quebec.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Quebec, it doesn't matter.
But saying that, and this is an interesting conversation. My greatest concern with the current environment is that here we are in NEG. We're the largest Anglophone community in the province. People lose sight of that sometimes, and you would think that there'd be some sort of like understanding that within the community we're going to be talking to each other. We're going to have businesses. We're going to be servicing our own community. And yet that's not respected. That's like they want us to basically conform to some, ethno-cultural linguistic standard that the Quebec government has established. And that kind of flies in the face of the history, not just of the Anglophones, but the minority populations that have lived here for decades, for generations, right?
Well, proof in the pudding. Proof in the pudding that the museum in Quebec City starts at Champlain and not with the indigenous.
That's
you
right.
know, and let's not forget that that they made a motion to ban Bonjour Hi.
Right.
That's how petty it is.
Right. It's pretty petty. I hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I just find it very like it disturbs me that you have this kind of mindset that and you hear this the city as well, right? And you hear this with some para city organizations as well. it's like this expectations that we need to assimilate. And I'm like, well, I like me. I like my community. I like Holden. I like Mark. Why can't we just celebrate who we are? We speak French. We can, interact with the province. We're not a threat to the French cultural identity of this province. We just want to live, our lives and basically celebrate who we are, right? Our culture, our way. But I don't
Yeah.
want to get in that because I have the last item on the agenda, and I want to go to that because we got to bring this podcast in. It's already 7:30.
Oh, come on.
I know Holden says I can talk all night, but I can't.
Alex is just
possible.
like, I
This
want to be a
train runs out of steam.
podcaster, and then he gets into good episodes where things are going proper, and then he's like,
Right.
oh no, this is bad. Alex, we gotta just run it when it's hot.
I
Drop
believe
it when
in
it's hot.
structure.
That's not podcasting
but we can
as
talk
much.
about this. We can talk about this, Holden, for half an hour, okay? So don't get all stressed out there, okay? The last
I'm not
point on
stressed.
this is what does the future hold? Because there's a lot of cynicism out there. Holden has mentioned it already in this podcast, right? Like people have given up. There's kind of this defeatism out there, right?
Or they don't care.
They don't care. Is there hope for an inclusive Quebec?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Is there a way? Is it conceivable that we together as a community can move beyond these linguistic divisions? Is that how do you see that playing out, Mark?
Very simply. By having all these rallies, something that I've learned is exactly what's represented in the movie The Rise and Fall of English Montreal. And I really believe that What We Choose to Remember is a sequel to that movie. Bottom line, everybody cares about the economy. Everybody cares about healthcare. Everybody cares about infrastructure, immigrants. They don't care about this linguistic divide. So when our party is going to be based on that, and we are finding solutions to these problems, and a lot of people respect us for what we're doing and they support us. So the future is going to be very bright, because the message is getting out there. And even Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon came out to and invited the Anglophone community to come and talk to him. I sent him a reply saying, hey, let's talk. So a lot of people like our messaging. Our group continues to grow, and people are looking for leaders that are not only saying what needs to get done, but that are there in the trenches, lifting up their chemise, their collar, sleeves,
Right.
and that are there to represent them. And people see it in me because I really truly want to represent them. And I want to work on the economy. I want to make sure that everybody eats, and everybody wants that. And I know all the weak points. I know the strategy that I could apply because I'm in digital marketing. That's my specialty. Digital marketing, and I have my own company, To Impress You, .com. Little shout out, for all the people that have been supporting me. And, I've been at a financial loss for the last 3 years since these issues. Like, since COVID hit, I've personally taken such a financial hit. And I'm involved in these things like almost 24/7. And people ask me, how do I do it? And I said, if people didn't believe in me, I'd be doing something else. But that's the encouragement that I get. And when we organize an event like with you, Alex, with the Quebec Anglophone community, the QAC, when we do it with the Unity Group, when we do it with the BEC, Bridging Ethnic Community, and there's a Côte des Neiges NDG team, and the Parlons du Québec team, people have hope because they see that we're uniting. And they're seeing a lot more of us than they're seeing of anybody else. And I could take that argument with any leader that's there right now. And you could hear it, like, the leader of the Canadian Party of Quebec was on CGAD 800 last week with David Hertel. Go listen to the conversation. He hasn't changed. He's not going to change. It's all about him. It's always going to be about him. And he's not going to be able to sway anyone in a general election because of that. So the only way that party could really make a dent in the future, and this is free advice, is Murtis Fossey should be the sole leader of that party, or so Murtis Fossey should join the Canadian Party, the think tank, and our future party, because we have a lot more potential than the Canadian Party of Quebec.
I don't know who this guy is, so I've never heard this gentleman before. You with
Yep.
who?
Murtis Fossey is a psychologist. She's a psychologist. She's very awesome, and she speaks very well. And she goes to. They went to the Parliament in Ottawa. Don't ask me why. To ask the federal government to do something. Don't ask me why. But she's very well spoken, and I respect her a lot, and I liked her a lot when I was part of the party. And I got kicked out because we know that the leader is very weak and he can't lead a campaign. And we basically wanted a leadership race, which we were promised there would be one. And although they say, they talk truth to power, when you talk truth to power to them, they fall apart. They don't listen. They don't want to listen. They know the truth. It's going to hit them in the butt, and it's a shame. And people are like, well, why don't you guys merge forces? I know the guy. I've worked with him. I've been on the executive. I know how he thinks and everything. It would be a waste of time. We would be wasting so much time. I've been working on this since the previous election, not October 4th, when was the following day of the election. I've been working on this since I've been campaigning for as a candidate. So I know what it takes to win. And if you're just going to treat this as a weekend project, then you don't have the people's you don't have the people's at heart, the people's needs at heart. And running in Westmount Saint Louis, losing to a PQ, that stings.
Oh, Colin Standish ran in Westmount suit and came under the peak.
Yeah,
I ran in federally. I ran in Montreal West at EG Westmount, and I got less votes than the block. I was not happy about that.
No.
All right, Holden, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Oh, if I could add one more thing?
Sure, go ahead, please.
We're organizing a Bill 96 rally on July 20th, which is a Saturday. It's going to be in Ville Saint Laurent. Most likely, we're going to start at the Sphere Tech, where within that area. We'll definitely post more information about the starting and ending point. And that's on July 20th. And we need volunteers because somebody came up with the great idea of passing the pamphlets on during Canada Day and during the music festival. It's called the Jazz Fest.
Jazz Fest, that's right.
So we need volunteers. Come make a difference. Come and join us, and you'll see that we're a different breed here.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I want to first of all say, Marc, I want to thank you so much for your community involvement. I think it's really important that people like you get involved. And as a fellow activist, I want to tell you that I appreciate and understand the amount of work that's involved in this project. It's colossal. It's sometimes it's just, and I know you're not getting paid for it. You're not being compensated. It's something that comes from within. You're a driven man and a driven person, I should say. And I want to thank you for that because, I think that we need more people like you I think we need collectively, we need those people out there to lead a conversation, right? About politics, right? And wherever that conversation goes is fine, but we need some to sort of drum it up, get it going, right? So I congratulate for that for you. And Hol and I are trying to build something here with the Trainman report and NEG, and we hope that perhaps in the future, when you're the next premier of Quebec, you come back and you're on the show and you can share with us, the the trials and tribulations of the process and like what you learned in that, and hopefully we become stronger as a I don't know, not hopefully.
By the time he becomes premier, though, he will be
Right.
bound by the silence of politics.
So your efforts, I know, I said not hopefully, I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to say, I know that your efforts will make the community stronger. You know, it's,
Thank
but
you.
I say always,
Right.
I always tell my friends and my wife, it's always about pushing that needle, right? Even if you can
Yep.
get like a millimeter out of it, right? That's something, that's progress, right? And if you're pushing a millimeter like once every month, that adds up over the years, right? So we have to remember that. Holden, it's to you.
Yeah, so I appreciate everyone coming through. Thank you, Marc, for sharing with us, because like I said to Alex many times, people don't really know how to do anything in terms of civic duty. This isn't information that's taught to anyone, and despite the fact that people of a certain age group may believe that civic duty was still shared by parents, it is not. It is a lost art, and you know, like, we just live in different worlds. Like, most people that are young don't care about language politics because they're bilingual, so it's like not even a concern to them. So for me, like, the future of Quebec is just bilingual, because everybody that's young in Quebec wants to speak English, because like, you know, they're all like, yo, I'm gonna leave Quebec when I get older and go freaking make some money. Like, everyone is driven by the dollar. But it's good to have people like you who take the time to not only go out there and fight the fight, but share with us what you're doing and give people a toolkit in order to approach it, even if it means that all of a sudden the people for the Terrebonne bike path appear with their petition. That's still due process, and honestly, it's a wonderful thing, even if it's the conflicting goals and stuff. So it's cool to have that, and thanks to everybody who came in and watched and participated. We appreciate that. Make sure, if you're watching this in the future, to like, comment, subscribe. Go tell your friends about us, because it's the only way that we're going to grow. And we're going to try to partner with local NDG businesses to give you local NDG prizes. Like, imagine getting a free Homer's donut or something.
Oh my God! You know what we need to do?
That would be a good prize for watching the Trainman report. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we need to have a show where we combine Homer Donuts with Kelem ice cream.
Oh.
We need to create a containment field. And Jason goes explosive. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of Homer's donuts recently, but they're good. But they're like, they're so big. They're so, don't buy a dozen for a small
that's
number.
a mistake.
Don't do it. You'll eat too many donuts too fast, and then you'll feel like an icky person.
That's right. You'll hate yourself.
But yeah, appreciate everyone out there. Let us know your favorite NDG stuff. Personally, I'm looking forward to Monkland Street getting blocked off and all the controversy coming from that.
Me too. Yeah.
And live long and prosper, everyone.